when it comes to somebody that just got that dreaded email saying, hey, you're shut down, you're suspended.
Google Business Profile has been suspended.
What to do if your Google Business Profile has been suspended.
I think it all is around their being displayed or not. One of the biggest things I noticed even when I started doing this is a lot of people had problems with their Google Business Profile.
You could wake up tomorrow, your Google Business Profile suspended. No calls, no customers, all because of one mistake you didn't even know you made.
Welcome to the Built Local podcast. Today we have a guest I am super excited about. Selfishly, I want to hear what he has to say, and I'm excited for him to shed some knowledge and shed some light on some of the hottest debated topics in the Google Business Profile space for local business owners, especially for home service business owners, getting these Google Business Profiles verified and making sure you're getting customers. So today we got Alan Bearden. Alan, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on and talk about this stuff, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we're excited to have you too. And Alan, before we dig into the meat and potatoes, introduce yourself to the audience. Tell them a little bit about yourself and how you got into this line of work.
Sure. So my name is Alan Bearden. I own Warrior Webworks. We are a small marketing agency out of Washington State. And so I really got into this when I first started doing this. I was still working full-time. One of my friends that owns a real estate agency, he needed some help with his website and things like that. And so my background is in IT, so I have my master's in management information technology. And so I've kind of always been in the tech world. And so I started helping him with that. And then back in 2020, I felt like God was really calling me to start my business. And so I finally listened. I did that for about a year. So I worked full time and then I did this on the side for full time, for a year. And then at that year mark, then I really felt like God was calling me to quit my job and go full time. So I wish I had listened immediately. I did not. I waited about 6 months and things at work just got worse. And so just the environment was kind of toxic, things like that. And so, honestly, I prayed about it again. And then he was like, I told you to quit, 6 months ago. So I finally listened. and then just kind of dove into this. A lot of it didn't make sense at the time. I did a lot of math of like what our expenses were and what my monthly revenue was and things like that. And I'm like, this doesn't really add up, but it worked out. So
Yeah.
4 years later, I've been doing this full time. My wife's a full-time stay-at-home mom. And so it's been really, really good. And so one of the biggest things I noticed even when I started doing this is a lot of people had problems with their Google Business Profiles. And so I took that opportunity to really just study the guidelines and the rules and all of that stuff around them just so that I could help people get that up, because I know how important it is. A lot of times that's the only thing people do for advertisements. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, talk on that a little bit more. I mean, I know that we've got customers that some of our business owners and users get 60 or 70 or 80% of their customers from their Google Business Profile. And if that goes down, they're missing out on hundreds of thousands in revenue sometimes. And so, just how important is a Google Business Profile to a home service business owner in today's climate?
I think it's probably the most important thing you can do. One, it's free. It's a free thing that you can get. And if anyone is, looking for any sort of home service, the first thing that they're going to do is go on Google and search. And so being in that top 3 in that map pack it's super important to get there. So obviously, there's tons of home service businesses and everybody wants to be in that top 3 spot, but there's only 3 spots. But that's the number one thing that I just tell people if they're starting a business, they ask like where they should start, what they should do. I'm like, get the Google Business Profile and get reviews. That's like where you are. It doesn't cost you any money and it's going to bring in revenue if you can get into that map.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, obviously, when we're talking about the massive cities and stuff, sure, there's some competition, but there's so many people in cities that have 20,000, 50,000 people in them that literally a little bit of work, like an hour a week of work and just getting reviews and having a profile, you can start ranking pretty well, especially in certain industries that aren't as competitive, I mean, yeah. It's wild, but we go ahead and dig in here a little bit. What do you think is probably the number one reason you see Google Business Profiles get taken down?
I think it all is around their address being displayed or not. So there's a lot of rules around service area businesses and who's allowed to have an eligible address displayed to the public. And it's hard to know if that's what you're supposed to do or not, because even if you're creating a profile and you verify it, it just assumes that's what you're doing. And so it tries to get you to verify your house if you don't know how that works. I think that's probably the number one thing. And I would say probably the second thing after that is having your hours display as 24 hours when you don't actually operate 24 hours a day.
Yeah, for sure. Those are two big ones there. So diving in a little deeper on the address thing,
Sure.
what is required for somebody to list their address, compliantly so they're not going to get shut down by Google?
Right. So technically, by the rules, Google wants you to have a commercial address location. Like they want you to be commercially zoned, and have that there. What I have found, even when I'm doing reinstatements, if they have signage or whatever, the Google employees will actually look up your address, and if it's a residential home address, a lot of times they'll deny it that way. There are certain ways around that as far as like not having to have a commercial space. Like if you have a shop on your property that is separate and you have signage, and your business name is in that, is on the paperwork, like you have your LLC paperwork and all that stuff matches, and you can show that you have like an actual office location and things like that, even though it's on a residential property. If you can prove that to Google, a lot of times they will approve it.
Okay, gotcha. And then in a little follow-up to that, do they need to be able to receive mail at this address to get verified? What does that look like if they are on a shop on their property, or if they're trying to use a shared working space or something like that? How does that work?
Yeah, so no, they don't need to be able to get mail there. They just need to be able to record it. And so they don't really do postcard verifications at all anymore. It's all video verification now.
Back in the day, the good old days.
It was so much easier back then. But yeah, no, it's only videos now. So they just need to be able to show that space, and that needs to be able to show that it's staffed during the hours that you have it. And as long as your paperwork and everything matches, it should be fine. It's interesting you mentioned about shared working spaces, because there's some misconception that Google does not allow like a co-working space or a shared co-working space, but they do. They do allow that. It just has to be staffed like by a physical person during the day, and you have to prove that there's an actual person there. The only thing that Google does not allow is like virtual offices or virtual addresses, some of that kind of stuff, but they will allow a shared co-working space if it's staffed during the day.
Okay. And then when it comes to if it's staffed during the day and proving that, how does that work for a plumber or a home service guy who's out in the field all day, or might have an office, somebody that works in the office, but they might work from home? How do you prove that?
Yeah, right. So if it's a co-working space, then they want their address displayed. They would have to have a person staffed there during the day. A lot of times, Google will call your phone number and talk to you and just ask you some verification questions. Everything lines up at that point. But yeah, there's got to be, with Google's guidelines, there's got to be someone there.
Gotcha. Okay. That's really good to know. And then when it comes to the hours, you mentioned the hours. Let's say one business I see all the time is tree service. They'll have 24/7 listed because and their argument is, hey, somebody calls me in the middle of the night because a tree fell on the road, or if I get a call from emergency services or whatever that, hey, there's something blocking the road, we need to get this tree out of the way, I'm going to answer the phone, I'm going to go do it. But I know there kind of needs to be consistency across everything. How do you prove that you really are open 24/7? And if you are open 24/7, should you be hesitant to actually have that listed because you don't want your profile to be taken down?
If you actually do operate 24 hours, then that's fine. Even with the emergency services, a lot of times what you can do is have it listed on your website that you have emergency services, 24/7 emergency, that it's listed there as well. And it has to make sense. Like a tree service that's down or something like plumbing, a lot of time will be at 24 hours for like plumbing emergencies and stuff like that. As long as it's listed in other places, it should be okay. The little things that I find are like other companies that I work with, a lot of junk removal companies personally. And so a lot of times those get suspended because they have them in 24 hours because no one, there's not really emergency junk removal at 3 a.m. Like, no, it would be at your house removing junk. It's not really an emergency. And so in that case, yeah, that'll be suspended a lot. But I do understand why people do it, because Google did update their stuff, within the last year or so. So rankings will fluctuate based on your hours. So if you have set hours and someone searches after your thing, you're closed, you may not show up in the top 3 just because it shows that you're closed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can imagine for certain home services, probably the majority of the search traffic they're getting, or the searches, and when people are typing it in, is probably not working hours. Those people are probably working jobs,
Yeah.
And so for like a junk removal company, for example, let's say guy in his truck, he's got a couple trucks and stuff like that, and he has listed 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. And he has that on his website, he has that on his Yelp, he has it on his Google Business Profile, he's got it everywhere. Do you foresee that being an issue, or do you think those are too long hours, or do you think that's, that's reasonable?
That's reasonable operating hours. What I see is most people are somewhere in that range, 6 to 10, 7 to 7, something like that. Those to me are normal operating hours for something like a junk removal.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Awesome. And then when it comes to somebody that just got that dreaded email, they just got that dreaded email from Google saying, hey, you're shut down, you're suspended. What is it? And actually, zoom out a second. Can you kind of shed some light on the different statuses your profile can have and kind of what each one means? I feel like people get those confused.
Yeah, so there's definitely different ones. So there's obviously if you're verified, you have your blue check mark. Sometimes Google will not suspend you, but they'll unverify you. And so your business profile is still active and people can see it. It'll just say unverified, and that just means any edits that you make to it is not going to be lifted. So if you change the hours or something like that, it won't change until you get your profile verified again. The other status is suspended, and there's a couple of different suspensions. There's what people will call soft suspension, and it's kind of the same thing as unverified. If it's suspended, you can still make edits, but they're not going to show up, and you need to do an appeal and get it verified. And then the other one is a disabled, and so that's usually what it goes to after it's been suspended for, I don't know what the exact amount of time is, but it usually will switch to disabled if it's been a long time. And so essentially that's what we would call a hard suspension. You can still get them back. It's a little bit more difficult to do if you get to a hard suspension. Soft suspensions are usually a little bit easier to recover, but you can get any of them back.
Okay, cool. And then when it comes to kind of the differences between the suspensions, what are the ones where you can't get reviews or respond to reviews anymore, or you can get reviews, you can't respond to them? How do those differ in those sort of suspensions and unverified?
Both suspended and disabled. Sometimes it'll say suspended and it's a soft suspension, which means you're still getting reviews, but your profile's still live, but you can't do anything. If you're suspended and it's a hard suspension, it'll still either say suspended or it'll say disabled, but then you're not going to be on the map pack at all. It's going to look like your profile's disappeared. People can't leave reviews. You can't change anything. You can change some things on the back end, but it's not good. No one's going to see it until you get verified again.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And then one thing I hear often is people try and get a profile verified. They struggle getting it verified. And so they're like, oh, I'm done with that profile. I'm just going to try and create another one. I got an email today about somebody, a user of ours, saying, hey, Google says I have duplicate locations now because they went through this process. So what do you see in that sense when they accidentally created a duplicate, or they do have duplicates? What do you do?
So there's a couple of different options you have. I would say if you're brand new and you're trying to create one and you can't get it, verified, and you can't get it active and you want to try to do a different one, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but remove the one you were working on first so that it's not in your profile. So that's number one. The second thing is if for some reason it does get verified and now you do have duplicate profiles, I personally have a pretty high Google Guide account, so I typically will go and suggest an edit and mark them as duplicate, and most of the time it will get accepted. So if you have somebody that has a Google Guide account, they can mark it as a duplicate and it should get merged. If not, you can always put in a ticket with Google, but that's the first step I would do, is to try and get them merged. But if they don't have any reviews on them or anything like that, then the easiest thing to do is just to delete the one that you didn't get verified.
Gotcha. And then I hear people of like, hey, I deleted it, or hey, I removed it, but I can still see it and it says it's permanently closed. In that situation, is that where you need to get one of those Google local guides or something to go mark it?
Yeah, that's a good question, because when you delete a profile, when you want to remove it, it asks you, like, do you want to mark this as permanently closed? And don't do that. So it'll ask you yes or no. Just put no, because otherwise it'll put it into that permanently closed state, and then it's a problem to get it re-up, because essentially what you'll have to do then is have like a Google Guide mark it as open, and then once they accept that, then you can remove it at that point. But yeah, if you're deleting a profile, you don't need to mark it as permanently closed. The only time you want to mark a profile as permanently closed is if like you actually are closing down, like if you're a barber or something and you're going out of business or something like that, then mark it as permanently closed, and then eventually it will disappear at some point.
Gotcha. So you're basically saying if you've got a storefront that people might be looking you up and trying to get directions and you actually are closed, then you want to mark it as permanently closed. But for service area businesses and stuff like that, do not mark it as permanently closed.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, just leave it. It's fine. Yeah.
Got Got it. And then when you talk about having a Google Guide account, having something, high rating there, are you talking about the Google Local Guide where you leave reviews and you get points and stuff like that?
Yeah, you can answer questions. Actually, that's what I do most of the time because it's easy. It's an easy way to get points. And so if I'm just bored or whatever, I'll go onto Google Maps and hit the contribute button and just answer the yes or no questions. And you can give 80, 90 points a day. It's hard to get to like level 10 on the local Google Guide account because you need like 100,000 points or something to leave a lot of reviews and photos and stuff. But
Yeah.
they do take people's Google Guide accounts relatively seriously. It kind of helps you to mark some things like as duplicates or create businesses and stuff like that if you have a higher Google Guide account.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I mean that sounds like a good asset for business owners to have. Like have your Gmail account and go contribute to your local area and leave photos and leave a photos in a review when you go out to dinner. Just do stuff like that so you kind of have that in your back pocket. Because I mean, reviews from a local guide are a little weighted a little heavily, just like you were saying with they're listening to you and you say you're marking this business as closed if you are high up Google Guide. That's awesome to hear. A good thing for the listeners to just kind of have that in your back pocket. If we go back to kind of the main reasons for suspensions and stuff, and somebody gets that dreaded email and they are like, oh no, my profile is suspended. What would you recommend for a business owner to be their next couple moves to get this business profile back up and running as quickly as possible? Obviously, we know that you're the wizard with this stuff, so we'll get to that because we know that we'll talk about why you should work with you and how great you are and what's different for you helping them out than just them do it themselves. But if they were going to do it themselves, what's kind of the next couple moves they need to make to get this back live?
Yeah, so first things first is to look at the Google guidelines. It's a public document, like you can search Google Business Profile Quality Guidelines and read through it and see what's wrong. A lot of times people will make the mistake if they get suspended, they don't change anything at all. They immediately put an appeal in and now we're stuck. And then even when you try to get like help from someone like me or someone else, we have to wait for them to review what you've already submitted and it delays the process because if I put in a ticket after you've already done, they'll just tell me, hey, you already got that. And so we can't. So I would say number one is look at this quality guidelines and see, okay, what am I doing? What do I need to fix? And go through each of the line items that are in your profile and look at Google's quality guidelines and see if there's stuff. And then if there is, then you can fix it and you can, fix whatever's wrong there, put in an appeal. Just make sure you have your paperwork ready because now they will limit you to, because I've had this happen too. They limit you to an hour to submit the evidence. You go and put in an appeal and then you start the process and you hit submit evidence and it gives you an hour timer, but then you get a phone call and you have to go do something and now it's been an hour and now you can't submit the appeal and now you have to wait for them to deny it before you can do anything else.
Jeez. Okay, yeah. So have all your stuff ready. Have your stuff ready to go if you're going to appeal it. And if you are going to get some extra help, don't go ahead and submit that appeal because you're going to delay the process there. And then when it comes to like their profile being down and stuff, is there a difference how hard it is to get a profile reinstated if it's been down for 3 months versus down for a week? Or is there any difference there? Or?
Not really. It just really depends on what has been done already and, what we need to do to fix it and what the real problem is. Because there could be like it's an account level suspension and no matter what you do, you can't get your profile reinstated. There's a way to fix that too, which I can touch on. But if it's like an account level suspension, there's some more steps you have to take. But as far as like the difference, no, it doesn't really matter. And I wish I knew what the difference is like what I'm doing to get profiles reinstated. Because like, for me, the fastest time I've ever had a profile reinstated was 15 minutes. And then like the longest it's taken me is 90 days. And I didn't do anything different for either one. So I'm just like, I don't know if there was just a bored Google employee at work one day. It was like, I'm gonna start doing this because I don't know what else to do today or what.
Jeez. Okay, so to talk on that inconsistency a little bit, is that just something you see? Because I mean, that's the biggest thing. The biggest frustration I hear from local business owners, home service business owners, is just Google's not being consistent here. Like sometimes it takes me a day, sometimes it takes me 90 days. Sometimes people have the keywords in their name and are open 24/7, but and everything's fine. And then sometimes you have that and you get suspended. And I know a lot of times there's stuff under the hood, like for example, the keywords in the name might be their actual business name. Their 24 hours might be all across their website, and so people might miss out on that. But is there inconsistency with Google? Is that really just people not knowing what they don't know?
Yeah, I mean, I've had it where like there's nothing wrong with the profile. I don't change anything on it. I put in an appeal and it gets, it gets approved. So I'm like, I don't know why it, got flagged in the first place. And it does seem to, depending on who looks at your account or like how timely it is. I do know that millions and millions of business profiles, and I don't know how big Google's profile support team is either. So I can only imagine like how much they're dealing with this on a daily basis. And that's one thing. It just depends. I don't know. I think there's probably some sort of AI system they're using to look at appeals and probably gets in a queue or something like that. I don't know that. No, but I have no idea. But I don't imagine they're using some sort of tech now, and it's not all human based.
Gotcha. Like you were saying about account level suspension versus a business level suspension, what ends up getting your account level suspended? Is that like duplicate profiles that you shouldn't have, or?
That can be one. It can be, yeah, if you have multiple Google business profiles, it can definitely flag your account, especially for service area businesses, because you're, with Google's guidelines, you're only allowed one service area business within a 2-hour radius of where your business is registered at. And if you have like different office locations, you can have different office locations, but for service areas, you can't have more than one within a 2-hour radius. And so that can be a flag. Also, if you've got your profile suspended multiple times, it can eventually just flag your account. And then what happens at that point, you can still get your profile back, but there's some things you have to do. But if you don't do those things, it doesn't matter what you do. It'll never reinstate your profile that's under that account because it's an account level suspension.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And when you're changing stuff on the account level, what do you have to do to kind of get back in the green so you can get those businesses back?
Yeah, so it's a longer process. So the first thing you have to do is create a new email. It can be a Gmail. It just needs to be an email that's never been associated with this business profile before. And you need to invite it as owner, and then you need to accept it as owner from your new email. Once you've accepted it as owner, you have to wait exactly 7 days. And I mean like down to the second. So like if you create a profile and accepted it owner at 8 a.m., it won't let you do anything like change an access level until 8 a.m. a week later. And so what you'll do is a week later, once you do that, you're going to switch it to your new email over to primary owner. And then from your new email address as primary owner, you're going to remove your old email from the business profile. And now you've gotten rid of your compromised account. And then now you can start the process of getting the appeal and doing that kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow. That's gold. That's some gold right there. There's a lot of gold here. I think these are going to answer so many questions that we get. So this is great. When you said, okay, they get the dreaded email, they reach out to you, you said, hey, you don't just resubmit it. You want to make sure you actually resubmit it once you're in, or appeal it. You want to make sure you do that once you're within guidelines. So knowing the guidelines. So what's kind of your like 5 or 10 or 15 point checklist, or some of the most common things that you go through on a profile and they say, hey, it's suspended. I need to get it reinstated. What am I doing wrong?
Right. So number one, always check and see, does your business name match your LLC registration name? And one, do you have an LLC? Sometimes people reach out to me like, and they can't get verified. And then I ask them if they have an LLC or something, and they don't have anything. They are not a registered business at all. And you have to have you have to be a registered business. And I even get the comments like, oh, you don't need a license to do junk removal in Florida. I'm like, well, that's great, but you need something to be on Google. Google requires it. Whether it does or not, it doesn't really matter. Google requires you to have some sort of business license. And that can be a city business license. It can be an LLC, it can be a DBA. It just needs to be something from the government that has your business name on it. So
Okay.
that's the first thing I check. Then I check your hours, what your hours look like. I check if your address is displayed or not. And then your business description, because sometimes people just stuff a bunch of keywords in there. And that can flag Google too. They're trying to rank for SEO stuff, but Google sees it as you trying to game the system. And so that's one thing I look at. And then I look at your service areas because that's part of the 2-hour thing. Any service area you list as a service area business, it can't be further than 2 hours away from where you registered your business at.
Gotcha. Okay. Those are the big things. Yeah, just so people know, your description, stuffing keywords in your description and in your review responses is not going to help you rank. No matter how many times I've screamed it from the rooftops, it's not. This has been like deeply studied by the smartest people in the industry, and like it's not going to help you rank. So like, don't do it. Don't worry about it. Okay. Literally, when I say that we get an email every day about, hey, add keywords to our review responses, I'm just like, it's going to be around forever.
It's much better if you can get your customer to have the keyword in their reviews.
100%. That matters. That actually matters for sure. And so those are the things they can do to get it, back reinstated themselves. But obviously you're the wizard here. What is it like working with you? Why is you helping reinstate it different than them just going directly to Google?
the number one thing is that I've done this a lot. Like in the month of July, we have 80 people that we're helping for reinstatements, and so we're about halfway there at this point. We have 80 people signed up. I think we're at 50% done with them at this point. Still waiting on some other ones. So I've done it a lot. The other piece of it is, these business owners don't want to deal with this stuff, so we're completely hands on. Like they don't have to do anything once they get us the access to the manager. I kind of handle everything else at that point. The only time I'll even ask for them to like submit paperwork to me for like their business stuff is if I can't find it. And so I'll look online to see if that their LLC paperwork is somewhere. I'll even pay for copies of it just so they don't have to deal with it. Because some governments will put it behind a paywall and you have to pay them like $1 or something to get their pay. But I'll do that.
That's nice of you.
Yeah, just so they don't have to mess with it. And so
Yeah.
and then they can focus on their business and that kind of stuff. And I'm sure it probably feels magical to them at some point where like they've tried this forever and then we take it over and then, in a few days then their profile's back verified, their reviews are back.
Yeah.
So that way it's really just, they don't have to worry about it anymore. We take care of it. And then another nice thing for us is if I, for whatever reason, I can't get your profile back, then I actually just don't charge them at all. So it's really a risk-free for them for like, I don't have to deal with this. This is what it is. If you do get it back, if for some reason we can't, there's no payment made on your end. There's no money involved or anything like that.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, just how I got introduced to Alan was I was on a podcast with about 60 or 70 pressure washers, and we were live streaming, and the podcast host was like, "Hey, yeah, if you're struggling with that, go to my man Alan Bearden." And then in the comments like, "Yeah, Alan's the man. Alan's the man." And so Alan's the man. It is magical to these people, especially as a business owner, you're worried about your business, you're missing out on revenue, you're doing everything you can to get it reinstated, and 2 months later, and then you work with Alan, and bada bing, bada boom, things are good to go. And I think you mentioned too a little bit, you're a Google partner, right?
Yes, so that is a huge advantage that I have. I got into it this year. It's Google's partner program. It's actually the Grow with Google partner program. So it's actually for nonprofits and Google partnered agencies. So you can get into it if you run an agency or something like that. A lot of agency people I talk to, they just don't want to mess with this kind of side of stuff, but you can get into it. And so the advantage I have with that is if I get to a point where I can't get it back, we've done all the appeals that we can do and they're still denying it or whatever, I have access to an actual Google employee that I can get these things over to. And he'll take a look at them. And then he'll submit them to the reinstatement team and kind of escalate the stuff for me on that end. And so that's been a huge help. I wouldn't have been able to do as many as I have if I hadn't got into this program, just because it's gotten way harder. It used to be easier to get profiles back. I didn't really need help before this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's like, I mean, that is the absolute gold mine there. I mean, I talked to people on the phone who are borderline tears saying, I looked all day just to get in touch with somebody at Google. I was like, hey, if you run Google ads, you'll get a call every single day that's telling you to spend more money. You want to get in touch with Google Business Profile, it's a little bit harder. Support team. And I'm not saying anything ill will. Google, I love you. We help people get reviews. So don't shut me down. But yeah, that is absolute gold there. So yeah, I mean, if y'all are struggling with getting your profile verified, click the link down below in the description. We'll have it in the show notes or in the link down below on YouTube. You can start working with Alan, help you out, help you get that reinstated. And Alan, is there anything else that you want to share with any business owners who are having issues with Google Business Profiles, or any questions I didn't ask that you want to shed some light on?
I'm trying to think if there's anything we didn't talk about. No, I mean, I think we kind of talked about and touched on everything. I would just say definitely get one and don't give up on Google. And then the other thing I would say too is if you've had a ton of reviews and you tried to get reinstated and it's been a while and you've kind of given up or like, oh, I'm not messing with that anymore, just let me know. Because even if it's been like years and your profile's been down, as long as you still have access to it and it's still showing on your account, we can get it back.
Love it. Yeah, no, that's huge. I mean, I talk to people that are fighting for their profile with 78 reviews or 130 reviews, like, I'm just gonna start over. I'm like, no, let's not start over. Let's try not to start over.
Yeah, if you don't have to, don't. It makes it way more complicated. Even if you do start a new one and then you do get a new one verified and you want your old reviews back, it's a much bigger headache to get things merged that way than it is just to get your original one back.
Yeah. Awesome, Alan. Well, this was amazing. We're going to definitely have to have you on again. If you have any questions about your specific situation that we didn't cover add them to the comments down below, and then we can have Alan back on. He can answer the questions. We can maybe do something live. We could dive into some examples. But this was awesome, Alan. I'm really excited to get this out. Selfishly, I wanted some questions to answered from you, but I'm excited to get this out to people because I know they will love it. So thanks so much for your time. And if y'all want to get in touch with Alan, all the links will be down below. WarriorWebworks.com.
Yeah, warriorwebworks.com. Yeah, we're out of Bonnie Lake, Washington, so you can Google us. You'll see us there.
Perfect. Sweet. Awesome. Well, have a good one.
Cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.